Welcome back to the Real Football Show. I'm Ryan Lam, your host, and today I have a very special guest with me, Sam Coffey. How are you doing, Sam?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
All right, so let's get straight into it. Let's talk some Arsenal because it's definitely an up and down season with a switch in manager, and actually, they kind of fell off in the Premier League, but was able to come back and at least guarantee European football toward the end of the season. Let's go straight into it. Let's talk some Arteta because, like, as he came on, he has a little bit of a different comparison, I guess, toward like newer managers or managers that stepped in throughout the half season. In that he's pretty, I guess, because he knew it was a long-term project. He's pretty rigid and he's pretty tough on his players, and it actually paid off toward the end.
Yes. Yeah. No, I completely agree with everything you're saying. It has definitely been a roller coaster of a year, roller coaster as a fan of emotions. But I have been very, very impressed with him. And I'm a big fan of not only his philosophy, but just of like the relationships that he seems to have with the squad. And I think they really respect him. I was a little nervous of like his age and even like the gap between him playing for Arsenal and then coming back to manage. But I've been really impressed, also considering the absolute wreck that he was left with from Unai Emery. He obviously was just given pretty much a team in shambles. And are we anywhere near where I want us to be? Absolutely not. But I'm definitely hopeful, and I'm really impressed with the way that he has come in, the way that he has, like you said, made those hard decisions and has done things that haven't been that popular. Just like, for example, what's been going on with like Mesut Ozil, but ultimately things that have benefited the group. And so, yeah, I think the way that it ended with the Community Shield and it ended with the FA Cup, like, I'm very hopeful. And I think that there are really good things to come with him. And so I've been really impressed so far.
Mhm. So let's get deeper into the player personnel because if there's one thing that this Arsenal team, at least for the past season, has been impressive, is that it uses a lot of young players. Like, of
Mhm.
course, some of them are going to go up and down in form. One of them is Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He has been really good. He has been kind of shaky. But then there are also players like Kieran Tierney, who was signed from Celtic the previous season. Also, of course, Bukayo Saka, who has been shining stars for you guys. So what are you thinking about? Of course, they have some elder players, and sometimes they are up and down too, like David Luiz. But then, what are your thoughts on the team having that in their back pocket, and then as the team develops under Mikel Arteta being a long-term project, how they could possibly plan out exponentially better because they're young and they've been playing together.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And again, I think it comes back to like the piece of it being very hopeful, and the fact that there is this much young promise is awesome. And I think that that definitely gives us an advantage in comparison to other clubs. I think Saka's been awesome. I think Maitland Niles, when he's good, he's unreal. Even though we saw it against Liverpool in the Community Shield, he was awesome, man of the match. Again, like you said, I think what is missing is consistency. And that's just kind of Arsenal to a T. We'll beat Liverpool and then lose to Aston Villa. And it's like, which one are you? Are you guys unreal and so good, or are you actual trash and should be relegated? So that's just sort of the battle. But I think the more that Arteta can coach in that consistency piece, and the more that the young players especially can like find their identity within the group. And I think just from like a structural standpoint with the whole team, that's still something they're lacking, that they're definitely finding, but is like lacking the identity and like, who is Arsenal, like what is Arsenal's style, because it has fluctuated so much, like from Emery's term and into Arteta's management. But I think the more that those younger players can really like establish who they are um, into the group, the more that we're going to see them shine. Because the times that like even Saka has started, he's been unreal. Sometimes coming off the bench, it's less so. So really, I think implementing that consistency and getting them minutes, obviously, will be really key. But there are some real promising talents, and the roster down the line is just on the younger side, which is just awesome. Really, really great.
Yep. Speaking about the roster, let's go into the first two quick questions. A player that have impressed you the past season, and a player that you feel like needs to step up his game, like he's just not quite there yet in terms of performance.
Um, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but Aubameyang just off the bat has just been the shining light of Arsenal. Honestly, there are times where they're down and out, and he comes up with some magic and just has led the team really well. I've been really impressed with like his leadership and the ways that he's quite literally put the team on his back, and he's just been sharp. He's been very sharp, and he just seems happier with Arteta, and I think he seems to have a really great relationship with him, which is awesome. So I've been super impressed with him. Obviously, was he tied for second in the Prem for goals? I think with Aguero. I think Jamie Vardy was first, but he was up there. Obviously making the best 11 in the Prem as well. So I've been super impressed with him, and he'll definitely need to continue to perform going forward as well. Players who need to do better. I talked about Mesut Ozil a little bit earlier, but I struggle with him. I mean, he's obviously got such a legacy and is an unreal player. I don't think he's happy at Arsenal. I don't think he's good for them, honestly. I think he's pretty lazy. When he's on, but he can also just be really complacent on the field. And I think Arteta was first to realize that like that is not matching the philosophy that he is trying to instate in his group now. And if he's not going to align with that philosophy, I don't care how good you are, like get out, and I don't know. I think he definitely has to up his game. I've been a little bit concerned about David Luiz at times. Again, similarly, I think the consistency will be key because again, when he's on, like he's awesome, but we've also seen some of what he has done in terms of the red cards and mistakes and whatnot. And he just has to be a leader for this group. Like, I'm glad that we're getting so many new defenders and promising talents in to join him in the back line. I haven't been that convinced with Mustafi either, but I think he is one that definitely, like, again, it comes back to the consistency every single game. Like, be our rock. He's definitely not our rock right now, but he can be. He definitely can be.
Mm-hmm. So, like, just extending from the roster and personnel talk, let's talk a little bit of transfers. Of course, it's a very weird time where, teams don't really have much time to get deals done, but then also might be hit by, the impact of coronavirus and financially especially. But then Arsenal has done some good pieces of business, in my opinion, bringing Gabriel at center back. And then also just securing some of the earlier deals like Cedric Soares, confirming his arrival as a right back. And I feel like the bigger one might be bringing in Willian as an option in the wings. So what are your early thoughts on those, especially transfer in? Because on the outward column, it's just like, Mkhitaryan, and that's about it for now.
Yeah, I think the transfers are going to be huge. And again, I think that this is just proving that there is a shift happening, that players like Gabriel and Willian are trusting in Arteta and trusting in his philosophy. I was actually able to see both of them play live once when I was at a camp in California, and I just remember being like absolutely blown away by them, and then so excited when hearing about them transferring over to Arsenal. But I think ultimately they bring experience too. I think they bring experience. They bring a very different element of the game. I think the Brazilian connection in the back line will definitely be something that's real. And yeah, especially Willian, like he adds such an element as a winger, specifically up top. I think Aubameyang is lethal. Lacazette is lethal. Again, they complement each other really well. And I think adding that third element of Willian will be like scary. I genuinely think it'll be scary. But again, I think bringing in that experience in those few transfers that balances out some of the younger players who are still trying to find their footing will be a really, really key recipe for them for this coming season.
Mm-hmm. So I guess this is a question that I personally have that could go from transfer and bridging into expectation, in that there are talks that Emiliano Martinez who has been Arsenal's goalkeeper after Leno got injured in the after the lockdown.
Yeah.
Like there are talks that he will be departing the team because a team like I think like Aston Villa is getting closest in trying to sign him. So what are your thoughts? Because like Emmy is the guy who got you guys through the final patch and especially early on this season as well. And of course, goalkeeper, it's always hard to keep two on one team and like give them promises.
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously that was like just another blow when Leno went down. But then Emmy came up huge throughout the season. They're both like I feel like I can't even compare them. I'm inclined to Leno just because of his reputation and his legacy kind of with the club. And obviously you can't be mad at Emmy for wanting to explore other options if that is the case. But I don't know. It's hard to compare them. I definitely would say I trust Leno more though, and just hoping that he recovers soon so that he can be back for the upcoming season.
Yeah, so then let's look forward to the upcoming season because Arsenal has been pretty good in keeping its main pieces, like going as far as having Dani Ceballos back for another year on loan. So,
Mm-hmm.
who's a player in your mind that Arsenal, like he needs to be on his form to for Arsenal to at least get back to the level you think they should be in?
It's a great question. I mean, I guess it kind of depends on like what side of the philosophy you're talking. Like if we're talking attacking wise, I'd obviously say that Aubameyang needs to continue to perform, and that he continues to need to be the leader that he is on the group and continue to guide the younger players, even though he himself is not an older player. But from I guess a defensive standpoint, I want to see Guendouzi back playing. I liked him. I liked his game. I know that there were him and Arteta butt heads a little bit. I'd like to see him back in and especially supporting David Luiz. But I'd say that most of the team's issues do stem from the back line and stem from their defensive philosophy and from just sloppiness in the back and goals that are so avoidable. And so I would really say that those backline players, starting with David Luiz, really need to pick it up, be consistent, lead from behind. And I think having Gabriel and getting Kieran Tierney back in and will be a huge help to him.
Mm-hmm. So one final question before I have you guess where Arsenal finish is, it's kind of an elephant in the room. Nicola Pepe. You guys play a lot of money for Pepe, and he is kind of up and down. So like I know it's hard to have a verdict on a younger player from another league, but what are you looking forward to him as in taking the next step, maybe toward crossing or finishing? Because those numbers are a little bit left to be desired for like 32, like 42 matches played over the whole season.
Yeah, it's hard with the younger players. We paid a lot for him, and he's got the talent. That's evident. It is frustrating because that seems to be the Arsenal way in paying lots of money for very good players, and then they come, and then it's like, what's going on with you? But I'm excited to see him again for this upcoming season. I think he, like you said, he left me wanting more. Definitely not satisfied, but again, I think he totally has the potential to be dynamic. I think he definitely, I don't know how the Willian transfer will come to play in with his role, but I think that he definitely needs to continue to prove himself to Arteta, to the group, to the fans, that was worth it. So definitely left me wanting more.
Mm-hmm. Finally, it's prediction time. So I'm actually not gonna have you guess in Europa League because the draw hasn't come out yet, and I feel like it's a bad decision because a lot of things could go wrong with that tournament with that big of a field, and it's kind of hard to predict. But for you, what would be a satisfying finish, or what you expect Arsenal to finish in the Premier League?
All right. Um, as a fan,
Mhm.
I want them to finish in fourth. I want to be in the Champions League, and I'm sick of not being. I'm sick of Europa League, quite honestly. So I as a fan, I want them to be in fourth. Now, being realistic, I don't know if that will be. Just with the state of things, with the new transfers, with Arteta still finding his footing, I think a fifth or sixth place is more realistic. I will always hope for fourth, but I think those two places are more realistic considering the factors. Now, if Arteta can continue to drive home his standard, his philosophy, I mean, we saw the way that they finished. Obviously, Community Shield and FA Cup aren't like the biggest titles to win, but it's still significant.
Yep.
And it's still 2 titles in the span of a month. Of whatever importance, it's still 2 titles in the span of a month, which is an awesome way to end. At this point, like, he is building from the bottom up, and so I want to be less concerned about where they place and just more so concerned with the philosophy he is driving in, with how he is reshaping this club, because it is so broken. Like, it's insanely broken, and he's like mending it. And I would rather have more growth and progression in this season to lead to sustainable success than them to finish fourth and then crash and burn because players want to go on loan somewhere else, whatever. So I am more so concerned and really hopeful about his ability to create sustainable success within the club and to just refine the identity that Arsenal had so much in the 90s and early 2000s with the Invincibles, and finding that spirit again. It's like there's just been such tension in the club, and so many players have come and been unhappy and left and been unhappy, and I think for the first time, like, they look happy again. Like, they look like they are enjoying themselves, like they're having fun, like they enjoy being coached by him. And so I'm really more concerned for like the long-term success and sustainable success of the club and the ways that they can continue to dominate Europe like they did in years past. That is my goal for them.
Who would have thought, like, United and Arsenal taking the same direction downward, and then possibly, probably, hopefully upward as we look into renewing the rivalry.
Premier League. It is, you got to go through these valleys, and then you hit the mountaintops, and hopefully that is coming soon because it's getting tiring.
All right, that's all we have for this current episode of the Real Football Show. Again, Sam, thank you very much for finding time to come on.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I think I will have the City episode come out after this one just because, City doesn't play until next week. So stay tuned. Links will be on YouTube. I'll look into clipping different episodes together for a podcast. And yeah, that's all we have today.